Yo, what's going on, yo? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. I know these videos have been a bit inconsistent over the past few days. It's been a crazy hectic month for me, but we're going to try and get them going a bit more consistently. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. And let's go ahead and get right into it. As you can probably tell, the game I want to start off with is Toronto versus Orlando, a game we saw just a few days ago as well, where Orlando also got a pretty big upset win, but it happens. You know, if you're a Toronto fan, you can kind of wave it off, although this has been a bit of a disappointing season so far for the team. Upsets happen in the NBA every single night, but now they've lost back-to-back games, taking another L tonight, this time by double digits. Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner both had 20-plus points. Mo Bamba was really good, and they kind of just got cooked. They really could not score effectively in this one, and it's kind of just been a microcosm of what's gone on for the Raptors all season. With this loss, they're under 500 for a team that last year was really in the thick of the playoff race the entire season. They ended up as the 5 seed, bowing out to the Sixers in the first round. And while some other teams made some improvements, Toronto was kind of just banking on internal improvement to become a better team. They were hoping on a Scottie Barnes leap. You know, you have Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam as all-star caliber players. Gary Trent Jr. is young. OG Anunoby's young. You drafted Christian Koloko. You've got some other young guys. They did bring in a guy like Otto Porter to help kind of shore things up. But for the most part, they were just hoping that internally they would continue to improve and grow as a squad, and that really just hasn't happened so far this season. So while a lot of Raptors players have been disappointing, and we will get to them, real quick, have to give a shout to the two guys that have been great on the season, Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. Now, OG did not play tonight. He was out for this one, but on the season, he's averaging almost career highs across the board. He's shooting better. This is kind of the offensive leap people were waiting for from him, but also he's playing like a defensive player of the year caliber guy, getting almost 2.5 steals a game. He's got multiple games where he has 5, 6. He had one stretch where I think he had like 5 steals in a row, 3-4 games. He's just been incredible. Amazing development from him, looking more and more like a star caliber player in the making. And Pascal Siakam tonight had 19, 7, and 5 on just 6 of 16 shooting. So not his best performance, but on the season as a whole, he's averaging 25, 9, and 7. He's shooting pretty well outside of 3. That's kind of struggling, which is something we will talk about for sure on a team level later on. But he's their best player basically every single night. If he wasn't on the squad, they're firmly in the lottery right now, and it's really not even that close. So it's a good thing they have him, and he is still kind of underrated in my opinion. I think a lot of the memes and stuff that people made about him years ago still kind of hold on to his reputation now. He's a legit top 15 player in the league, one of the best 4s or small ball 5s, whatever you want him to play in the entire NBA. He can play make, he can rebound, he can score, he can defend, does a bit of everything. Just a huge Swiss Army knife type player for Nick Nurse and that Raptors team, and I still think he's criminally underrated. He is easily an all-star and an all-NBA guy so far this year. But outside of those two players, basically everyone else has underperformed. Probably the biggest offender is Fred VanVleet, who last year was an all-star as an undrafted player. Just an incredible rise for him over the past few seasons of his career, but this is kind of a regression that we're seeing from him. He is not just averaging his lowest point total since his 2018 season at 17 points per game. He's shooting the lowest field goal percentage of his entire career at just 36%. He's shooting just 32.6% from 3, which is always something that he's excelled at. That's always been kind of his go-to, is he can drill threes in your face over and over again despite being a smaller guard. Defensively, he's not as quick. He's not staying in front of as many guys. His burst doesn't quite look there. It just feels like, and I don't want to say this like as a fact because there is a real chance that this is just a slow shooting stretch from him, but we might be seeing a bit of a regression for him. He is a smaller guard and he has played really heavy minutes over the course of his career. He's been averaging 36 plus minutes per game basically over the last 5 years that he's been playing here in Toronto. It's been a lot on his legs. I'm sure he's probably feeling it. You know, I've seen a lot of Raptors fans complain about Nick Nurse for this reason, saying that, you know, maybe he ran Freddie into the ground. And I do think he'll turn it around. I still think he'll be a really good player, but there's a real chance that last season was the best we'll see from him. And that kind of sucks. Hopefully that's not the case, but I just haven't been encouraged by what I've seen. He's supposed to be their second star next to Pascal, and that just has not come to fruition whatsoever. Then we have Scottie Barnes, who me and many others thought could take a bit of a sophomore jump, and is instead in a pretty rough sophomore slump right now. He's averaging less points per game, less rebounds. He's shooting worse from the field, albeit his 3-ball has improved, so that's a pretty big plus right there that we can look at. And his assists have risen as well because Nick Nurse has started to use him a bit more as a point forward. There are a lot of times where he is the lead ball handler on some certain sets, and while down the line, those are probably going to be pretty valuable experiences and moments for for him, it's been pretty rough so far this year. He hasn't really had the ability to get past defenders. His handle isn't quite there. He still is really raw offensively, which is fine. That really wasn't supposed to be his game coming into the league, but it has just kind of shown that I think we need to slow down a bit on Scottie. It's going to take him some more time. I still think he'll be a really solid player. I don't really think he's a bust, but it's clear that he's not really ready to jump to that all-star level player quite yet. Defensively, he's also looked worse, which is probably a bit more concerning because offensively, he's in a whole different role, but defensively, once again, I'm starting to wonder if playing heavy minutes has got him kind of gassed out there because he's struggling to stay in front of guys on the perimeter when last season he was pretty solid defensively for the most part. So Scottie, supposed to be kind of one of the guys that they banked on, improving a lot that would help them succeed more, just hasn't been the case so far. His progression has been a lot slower than earlier anticipated, although I still don't think he's a bust or anything. I think he's going to be just fine. It is slightly concerning. Then we get to Gary Trent Jr., who is also still super young, but it's another player having a pretty down season. His three ball has fallen off a cliff when that was supposed to be his primary game as a guy that could drill threes. He had a solid performance tonight, but overall been very, very inconsistent and very, very streaky, even more than he's been in the past. Defensively, he's not quite getting in passing lanes as much as he did last season, and really overall has never been a great defender. Nick Nurse has even benched him some games because he just doesn't fit what they're trying to do. He even said so in a press conference at one point, which makes me think that maybe he's not in their future plans. Not exactly what you want to see for a guy that looked like he was a long-term piece coming into the year. Then there are the team-wide issues, which include rebounding and three-point shooting. Rebounding-wise, you can probably tell when you look at their roster, they don't really have any legit 7-footer type centers, which is part of the design of this Raptors team. They wanted to build a team that's really switchable. They've had Siakam running the small ball 5 for that reason, and they've got a lot of rangy 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" players on this roster to kind of help with that format, but it's showing some of its weaknesses in the fact that, once again, they're getting killed on the boards. They got destroyed offensively and defensively on the rebounds tonight against Orlando, which, given they have a really big team, but that highlights their weakness. If they go up against a really big squad, they're not going to be able to really stop them consistently from grabbing offensive and defensive rebounds. They could really use a big-bodied center that can stretch the floor, a la a Miles Turner, like they had maybe the opportunity to trade for before the season, but now his price value has probably gone so high due to his amazing play so far this season. He's been phenomenal, but a guy like him would be perfect because not only do they need rebounding and, some shot blocking, they could really use some shooting as well. They've been one of the worst shooting teams in the league so far. Gary Trent Jr. has been their most consistent player that actually plays shooting the three ball, and he's shooting 33% from deep. It's been rough. Him, Siakam, OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, everyone in that starting lineup and even off the bench just haven't been able to consistently put down the three ball. And that partially comes from a guy like, Otto Porter, who they picked up to be one of those shooters. He hasn't really played much so far this season. So when he's able to more consistently play, maybe that helps them out. But I don't think Otto Porter is going to really turn this season around for Toronto. Then there's been a lot of criticism of Nick Nurse, who has long been considered one of the best coaches in the league. But now people are saying, why is he playing guys so many minutes? He always has these short rotations. The way that he uses players, like having Scottie Barnes run point guard, hasn't looked pretty. It might once again help him out a lot developmentally down the line, but at least in the moment, if Toronto does want to compete, it's not really what they should be doing. There's just a lot of concerns with everything with this Raptors team. It's making me think that they're in pretty big trouble, mainly because in the mold of what Toronto wants to do, there aren't many ways that they can fix this team immediately. Once again, I think they need a big, even though Toronto might want to stick with this whole small ball thing they've got going on, I think they're going to need a big man. Someone like Miles Turner, once again, would be ideal, but do they have the assets that they want to part with to get a guy like Miles Turner, who, once again, his price tag is probably super, super high, and I don't even know if Indiana wants to deal him with how great he's been alongside Tyrese Halliburton. They're competing at the moment. They've been better than the Raptors this season. I doubt they're going to want to move on from a guy like that fits their core so well. So you look at the rest of the market, and there aren't many three-point shooting, shot blocking bigs available because they are so valuable in the league, but it's something like that I think would really go a long way for Toronto. And also, say they want to upgrade one of their starting pieces, who do they move? I doubt they're going to want to move any of Siakam, Fred VanVleet, or OG Anunoby and throw Scottie Barnes in that mix too. So Gary Trent Jr. is probably the odd man out, but even if you move him, who really is going to come in that you can trade him in first round picks for that's going to immediately fix this team? Now, I'm not saying Toronto's screwed long term or anything because I still think Scottie Barnes is going to be a star. OG Anunoby has been developing, but Pascal Siakam is getting a bit older, and Fred VanVleet as well. It's starting to look like all the miles he's put in his legs are taking a bit away from his game. game. Even if he gets back up to that all-star caliber level, he's not going to be at that level for very long. So they've either got to capitalize on this thing now, or maybe start looking towards the future where you move on from Siakam, you move on from Fred VanVleet, theoretically, to try and build around like OG, who, you know, is like 25, 26 years old, so he's still got some years left, and a Scottie Barnes and whoever else you get in those trades. So they're in a very weird spot. I've seen a lot of Raptors fans say, let's go ahead and blow this thing up. I've seen a lot of them say, now we can stick this out. But regardless, they're kind of just in trouble. It's not been a great season for them, very disappointing so far, and it's not an easy fix with what they want to do. Let me know what you think the Raptors should do in the comments below. In some other news, the Pelicans and the Suns played for the second time in the last few days, with New Orleans getting back-to-back wins over them. Zion has entered the MVP conversation pretty firmly as the Pelicans continue to strengthen their grip on the 1 seed out west. He had 35-8-3. CJ McCollum had a 29-4-7 game. A huge performance from him as he continues to bounce back and find his rhythm after a disappointing start. They've won 7 straight games now without Brandon Ingram and continue to look the part of a dark horse contender. This is now back-to-back wins over Phoenix, like I mentioned, who were the 1 seed coming into their earlier matchup with this squad, and now they've fallen all the way down to the 4 seed. So huge shout out to the New Orleans Pelicans. They've been phenomenal. For the Suns, we continue to see Chris Paul struggle offensively, just 6 points tonight, although he did have the shot to send this game to overtime alongside 11 dimes. He's just very clearly showing some signs of his age. DeAndre Ayton had a 28-12-5 game, but both of those two players ended up fouling out towards the end, which the Pelicans took advantage of, just blowing them away in overtime. They didn't have Devin Booker in this one. He would have made a huge difference, but you've got to be able to win games without some of your best players if you want to be a true contender, and Phoenix's holes are really starting to show. Then we had Rockets versus Bucks, with Houston getting a huge upset win. They were led by Jalen Green, who had 37-3, big performance from him, and Jabari Smith Jr. played a phenomenal defense on Giannis Antetokounmpo to go with 6 points and 10 boards. He's really been turning a corner. I haven't seen many people talking about it, but after being really, really mediocre to start the season, he seems to have found a rhythm both offensively and defensively, so shout out to him. On the Bucks side, like I said, Giannis only 16 points, not a huge performance from him. Drew Holiday had 25, 6, and 8, really good game from him, but once again, not enough. And then you had Chris Middleton, who came back recently from injury, but had to leave this one after, I believe, only 6 minutes because he once again was struggling with something. So hopefully that's nothing too major, but it is a bit concerning if you're a Bucks fan. Hawks versus Bulls was probably the craziest game of this entire slate. You had Chicago down by 2 with just a couple seconds to go in regulation. Derrick Jones Jr. gets fouled on a putback attempt. He makes the first free throw, misses the second, so the game goes to OT. And in overtime, the Bulls are down 2. DeMar DeRozan tries to put up a turnaround 3 off the inbound. He gets fouled by Bogdan Bogdanovic. He goes to the line, knocks down all 3 free throws, giving Chicago a 1-point lead with half a second left. What can you really even do with half a second? The Hawks go to inbound the ball. They can't get it in, so they call a timeout. Go for it again. This time, Trey lobs it up to AJ Griffin, who does like a 180 fadeaway lob shot attempt. It was crazy. It goes in. It's AJ Griffin's second game winner of the season on a lob, which is just ridiculous. And the Hawks come out of this one with a huge win. Big blow for Chicago. This is one they really, really should have had multiple opportunities to put it away, both at the end of regulation with the free throws and just stopping a lob like at the end of this game. It's the only shot attempt they can really get off with that much time, or at least in terms of a good look. And they just once again folded in that moment. Bogdanovic had 28 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists as their player of the game, including this crazy shot from behind the backboard. Trae Young had 19 and 14 dimes. Once again, did not shoot super great, but overall, he was a pretty big positive on the win. To quickly recap the rest of the games, the Sixers blew out the Hornets with Joel Embiid scoring 53 points, the only player this season to score 50-plus points twice. He's just unbelievable, one of the best offensive centers we have ever seen. The Lakers beat the Pistons with LeBron and AD both scoring over 30, while Bojan Bogdanovic had 38 points in the losing effort. And finally, the Knicks beat the Kings behind Julius Randle, who had 27, 8, and 3 in just 27 minutes since he got ejected with 2 technical fouls, and RJ Barrett, who had 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 dimes. That's all I've got for y'all tonight. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. Go ahead and comment down below letting me know what you think about the Raptors. Are they really in trouble, or do you think that this is just a bunch of shooting slumps that will eventually pass? I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.